How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I got a new tool. It was not in this condition when I got it. I had to do a little work to it to get it into operating condition, and that's what I want to show you today. So if you want to see how I did it, stick around. So this is my new to me anyway, Jet 6-inch long bed jointer. I have never had a jointer before. I've always used the table saw, and I think maybe a couple of times the router to edge joint things, primarily the table saw. But I've been doing a lot of different types of work lately, and it's about time that I needed to get a jointer. And to be honest, I actually got this about a year ago. I got a really great deal on this thing from Facebook Marketplace. It was like 500 bucks. And about a year ago, I went down and picked it up, and I'll show you some of that footage. Brought it back up here. It was not in this condition when I got it. It had a lot of surface rust. It had been outside. I mean, it was under a cover, but it was outside where, you know, moisture can still get at it. This is Southern California, though, so it wasn't bad. There was no pitting or, you know, any serious damage to the cast iron that I had to deal with. I just had to get the surface rust off of it, basically. Man, I figured some of you guys might want to see how I did that, so if that's what you want to see, then stick around, because that's what we're going to do. So I hopped in the truck and I headed down to pick this thing up. Got there and fired it up and checked it out. Everything looked good. The rust didn't look too bad, so I decided to take it. The seller was a really good guy. He actually had a bunch of extra stuff laying around, one of which was an Incra miter gauge, and at the time I was still just using the miter gauge that came with my Sawstop saw. And some of you eagle-eyed guys have probably seen me use that miter gauge in some other videos between now and then. Again, I got this thing a year ago, but in any case, we got it loaded up on the truck, and I got it home. At this point, it's been several months since I actually bought this thing. I've just been busy with some other stuff and haven't really had a need for it, so just kind of let it sit off to the side while I was doing other things. But now I need it, so I got to get it cleaned up, get it working, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by removing the fence. That way I can get all the rust off both it and the tables, and then we'll put it back together, get it all squared up, and check it out and see how it works. I assumed the rust was going to make getting the fence off a chore, but it turned out to be incredibly easy and only took me a couple of seconds. Once I got it off, I hit the rusted beds with my bench brush to get as much of the loose rust and dirt off as I could before I got down to the sanding. Now, I'm sure there is some time-honored process for doing this, and I'm probably doing discredit to here, and I'm just as sure that someone will correct me in the comments, but this is how I did it. I decided to start off sanding it dry, and it turned out to be kind of messy. My thinking behind it was that it would have been even more messy to hit it with the WD-40 first, and then sand it wet and have that slurry of rust and WD-40 slinging all over the place. But doing it dry was equally problematic, as the fine dust got all over me and my sander. It would have made a mess either way, I suppose, but I'd just say that you should make sure that you're wearing a mask if you do start out dry like this. I was originally worried about being too aggressive with the sanding and getting a lot of swirl marks, so I started out with 220 grit, but I quickly realized that I was going to be there for a while trying to get the more deeply rusted spots out, so I ended up going down to 80, which turned out to be just fine and made quick work of getting the majority of the rust off. I then sprayed on a liberal coat of WD-40 and let it soak in for a few minutes, then proceeded to sand up through the grits all the way up to 400. This might have been a bit of overkill, as I do tend to overdo most things, but it came out looking really nice and I was very happy with the end result, so there were no regrets. Once I got both of the beds and the fence sanded to my liking, I cleaned off the surfaces real well with some acetone. I finally finished them off the way that I've always protected all of my cast iron tools, with some good old-fashioned Johnson's paste wax. Now, I know Johnson's is no longer making paste wax anymore, and there are a lot of other products out there that people like to use, but I still have enough Johnson's on hand to last probably the rest of my life, and it's really never let me down for this purpose, so that's what I'm using. Once I got everything waxed up and put back together, it was time to test out my like-new jointer. I had a bunch of redwood panels that I needed to glue up for a project that I'm currently working on, so it was the perfect opportunity to test it out on those, and it did not disappoint. I got a nice, perfectly flat edge on one side of those boards here on the jointer, ripped them to width on the table saw, and then got some beautiful seamless joints on my glue ups. That project is a big green egg barbecue station that I'm currently doing for a new customer, and you'll be seeing the build video for that here on the channel soon. So be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel,
and hit that bell icon if you want to be notified when I release that video and any other future videos. And speaking of that project, cutting up all of that wet redwood from the home store had rusted up the top of my Sawstop pretty good too. So once I was done with the jointer, I decided to give that a little makeover and fresh waxing as well. It wasn't nearly as bad as the jointer, so I only needed to hit it once with some 400 grit to get it cleaned up, and then gave it a nice new coat of wax. As you can see, this is a fairly simple process that isn't anywhere near as intimidating as some might think it is or make it out to be. A cast iron top is pretty durable, so you doing a little sanding isn't really going to mess it up unless you really try. You might get some visible swirls from the sander, and those can be sanded back out if you want, but you don't really need to unless it's going to bother you. If you use your tools anywhere near as much as I do mine, that nice beautiful finish you get is only going to last until you use it the next time, so it's really not worth beating yourself up over. Unless you really go to town on one spot for an extended period of time, those minor swirl marks are just cosmetic and they're not going to have any significant effect on the overall flatness of your surface, so don't be afraid to do it. That's my take on it anyway. I'm sure there will be others who may disagree, and they're free to vent it out in the comments if they choose. Here's a little sneak peek of that barbecue station I told you I was working on. That video is coming soon. This is a pretty big build, and it's actually pretty cool. I think you guys will like it, so make sure to come back and watch that when it comes out. I've also got some videos coming up on my bandsaw and some other things, so stick around. Things are going to start getting a little more consistent on the channel again. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you made it this far, I figured I'd give you a little heads up of what's to come for the channel and maybe a little explanation of why I haven't been on for a while. If you regularly watch the channel, you've probably noticed that I haven't posted anything for over 2 months, probably close to 3 months until I got this one out. Like I said earlier in the video, I actually filmed this quite a while ago, and I have several other videos that I've been filming that are in various stages of production, close to the end. But time has just been hard for me to deal with lately. I've had a lot of stuff going on in both my professional and personal life that's been making it difficult for me to manage my time as well as I would like to. You know, this YouTube thing is basically a third job for me. It takes a lot of time and effort to put these videos together, but I'm committed to it. I still am committed to it, and I'm going to continue to be. And hopefully going forward from today, you're going to start seeing me post more regularly again. That's the plan anyway. I'm thinking that I've got my loose ends tied up now to the point where I can do that. And in another video, maybe we'll talk about, you know, some of the particulars of what's been going on and stuff. Nothing particularly bad at this point, but you know, just stuff I've been dealing with. But in any case, I just wanted to say thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, you know, take care, happy woodworking, and we'll see you next time.